So Martin, we're back to this issue again. The issue of, the contracts by Zoomlion, that's the waste management contracts. But most importantly also, the Public Accounts Committees realized that certain equipment that it was supposed to have supplied to the District Assemblies have not been supplied. They've therefore directed the non-payment to the company until those deliveries are made. First, what's your take on the discussions in Parliament? And secondly, why do we keep coming back and forth to this same issue? Why are we just not able to deal with it once and for all, Martin?
Winston, that is the $1 million question. Why can't we deal with it once and for all? And you see, your question comes back to this. This same issue was raised by Dr. Kwadna Donko in 2021. You follow Manasseh's writings. He's been on this contract for about 10 years now. So in 2021, Kwadna Donko raised this thing, and my understanding is that the Speaker set up a committee to go into it while Zoomlion is fleecing poor workers in Ghana. Now, question is, after that long, the Speaker said the committee should report by February 2022. So the question is that from December 2021, today we are December 2023, 2 years on. What has happened to that committee the Speaker set up? So you see that all of this add to the suspicion that the powers that are in bed with Zoomlion to fleece Ghanaians, to steal from us. I say so because, in 2016, candidate Akufo-Addo said Mahama could not do anything about this contract because he's personally interested, because he had shares, because he was benefiting from that contract. So isn't it a legitimate assumption to make that to the extent that Akufo-Addo has not been able to deal with that contract in 7 years, he is also interested, he's also benefiting from it, especially when you add it to the context that Akufo-Addo and Zoomlion did fumigation contracts over 500 million Ghana when the COVID matter came. Manasseh won this in the recent West Africa Journalist Award on that investigation. Why Akufo-Addo asked Zoomlion to do fumigation contracts that Assembly said they could do at far cheaper, and they didn't want Zoomlion to do it, and yet Akufo-Addo insisted, and they did it, and cost us over 500 million needless fumigation. So if you tie it with this, it's legitimate to assume that Akufo-Addo is also benefiting. That's his own words that we are playing back to him. He said that if JM couldn't do anything about this Zoomlion contract where workers are paid about 300 cedis, when the government is paying him about 800 cedis, then he's interested. So if that contract is still in place today, Akufo-Addo is also interested, he's benefiting from that contract. Simple. His own words. I've added nothing. Added nothing. It's his own words, his own logic.
Now that you've you have reiterated these words from 2016, but let's get back to the issue again. So we know that per the minimum wage, these persons who have been working are supposed to be earning minimum 327 Ghana cedis. In some instances, they are not earning that. Any avenues open to them? Yes,
so they can sue. And in actual fact, some have sued in the past and won. They've won judgments, but they are not finding Zoomlion, this Better Management Ghana, and all those. They are not finding assets to execute the judgment. So, Winston, under our law, when you go to court, that's the civil cases. Once you say it's civil, then most of the time, apart from contempt, jail is out of the question. So if you win, you have to fall on the assets of the person you've won against. So if the person has no assets, then it means for the time being you will not get paid. Maybe you have to keep going to church and praying that the person comes into funds. Then you can execute the judgment in future. So I'm aware of people who have won judgments against Zoomlion for some of this work, and they can't be paid because they are not finding the assets of the companies. You have to find, because of the concept of limited liability, so the company is separate from Joseph Sian Ejapon himself, that's Zoomlion. So the company is different from Mr. Ejapon. So you can't go ordinarily against Mr. Ejapon's personal assets unless you had made him a party and the court had said you can execute against the company, and then Mr. Japan personally. But in the absence of that, you can't take Mr. Japan on. There are a few exceptions, but that's too complex to deal with right now. That to mention one of them. Let's say if you could show that money that was paid to the company made its way into his personal account. So then that way you are saying the company funds that are with him. You need a lot of forensics to be able to come to that conclusion. But you see why effectively Mr. Sinyan Japan himself is being insulated.
But let me just get your view on this, because there's a country that has been touting its decentralization credentials. Today we've established a Ministry of Local Government and Decentralization and Rural Development. That notwithstanding, we're signing contracts in Accra for waste management when the district assemblies should be the ones doing that. We have these contracts, deductions made in Accra. Doesn't that in itself defeat our decentralization process? And shouldn't we be stopping these contracts?
Absolutely, Wilson. Super duper. We should have stopped this a long time ago. I've followed you. I know you doing studies, or you did studies in decentralization, local government. I've heard you espouse these principles. I've heard Dr. Odro Sain. I've heard Kalistus Mahama. People. So over the years, people have made these points. But the point is that because the politicians apparently benefit from this contract, they don't want it decentralized. They want all of it at source. Then they can make the deductions from the assemblies. The assemblies have been crying ad nauseum about some unjustified deductions. That's been it. But the larger majority of the citizens, we don't even understand what's going on. So we are not able to make enough noise. But your point is unassailable. We should have decentralized this long ago. Long ago. I don't know.
Well, Martin, we'll continue with the conversation. Hopefully this time around, and we'll begin to also request the report of the committee. That was supposed to have submitted its report in February 2022, and find out what the recommendations were and whether they've been implemented or not. We're glad you made time to join us this morning.
You're welcome.
Well, so that's Martin Kpebu, who's a private legal practitioner, joining us here on the Super Morning Show.